Hey everybody, my name is Mike and this is Tech Tuesday. We talk about lovely tech every single week. Last week's video was about a Bluetooth adapter. Not the best video in the world, but if you're looking for it, check it out. Now, today, we're doing something different, something I have not done before, and that is retro tech. So that means we're going to go ahead and take a look at some old retro stuff, mostly video games, because I'm a video game nerd, and this is what we're going to be discussing today. The Game Boy Pocket. That's it, the Game Boy Pocket. So we all grew up with Game Boys if you're, around 30 or under. And the Game Boy came out in 1989. So 7 years later came this bad boy. And just like the PlayStation 2, PlayStation, Xbox 360, a lot of consoles have revisions. This is the revision for the Game Boy. There was a second one that came a little bit later, but this Game Boy Pocket, right, it came out in 1996, so just 7 years afterwards. As I said, this bad boy came out in 1996. It continued to be produced until 2003 for some fucking reason, and it was amazing for its time. Really, truly, it was an improvement. So, comparatively to the Game Boy, the normal Game Boy, this thing was smaller. It was the pocket, so you could fit it inside of your pocket. It was like $70, and it was amazing because it could play the same games as the Game Boy, obviously. Total number up here. But the coolest thing is, right, this had a better screen, a tiny bit of a bigger screen, not too big. It's like what? It's 2.56 inches. So, yeah, not the biggest screen in the world, but bigger than the other one. And more importantly, it got rid of that nasty green color that, the normal Game Boy had. It actually was true black and white. And I'll show a demo here in a second. But, it's better. So this only took 2 AA batteries versus the 4 from the original one, which is half. And this only lasted for 10 hours versus the Game Boy's 15 hours, but 2 versus 4. So if you use the same exact 4, right, the 4 batteries that it would take to power the other one, you're getting 5 more hours. So it's more efficient and it's smaller. It has a better screen. It has this, we'll get into the overview of it, but it has this link cable right here that is on every other Game Boy except for the original one. You would have to get a special adapter to be able to link an old Game Boy with the Game Boy Pocket. Point is, not the point. The one bad thing I would say that it really has going for it, it is not backlit. And Game Boys, right after that, in 1997, came out with the Game Boy Light, which is basically a Game Boy Pocket with a light, like a backlight in it. But that only released in Japan, so if you're American, you probably don't even know it exists. So let's just do a quick overview so you guys can see it. My copy, this is my actual Game Boy Pocket that I've had for very close to 20 years now. But I don't even have the back plate, but go ahead and check it out, right? Let's go ahead and get that thing into focus. All right, focus. It looks just like a Game Boy Color, right? I'll go ahead and put another one up there next to it. These buttons feel still pretty fucking good for being this came out in 96, so almost 30 years old. It has these A and B buttons where they should be. The rubber feels amazing, it's the rubber that you feel on the Super Nintendo, it's that nice rubber. So it has the power on, which then powers up this little LED in there. Bottom, and has a 3.5 jack and a 3 volt power. One funky thing, and I'll go ahead and show you this, is there's no labels. I don't know if you can see. There's no labels. There's just these little lines of what these are. And then right on the bottom of this actually goes ahead and shows you what they are. It's super weird. I'll go ahead and put the color on here where the color just has it displayed on here. So good job, Game Boy, being fucking weird. Again, I don't have the battery cover because this thing is super old. And then lovely Game Boy games, right? So what could this play? Again, just Game Boy games. It's just a Game Boy, but smaller. You can't play any color on there. You can't do anything else. So the left side has the extension, and then it has the volume. And on the right side, which most handhelds definitely don't have at least a physical button anymore or a slider, is the contrast. That's it. like super easy. I don't know what's rattling. Like, I couldn't tell you what this rattle is. Yeah, I think it's my like clip for the battery cover. Oh, it totally just broke right now. Yeah, I just see it broken in there. Cool. But anyways, let's play a game.
I want to play a game.
My audio is gonna be shit, so just deal with it. Power on. We can go ahead and turn this volume up. I need it. Oh, there we go. Contrast right there. Well, that was thrilling. I actually love Tetris, but even I have to say, as a video game nerd, as someone that loves Tetris, this experience can stay in the past. All right, so just my final thoughts on this Game Boy Pocket. If you're gonna go ahead and get one cleaner than this. If you're gonna get one, know that it's not the best to play on. There are better devices, and we'll talk about it. But realistically, this is for the collector. That's it. Like, there is absolutely no reason to buy this or get this unless you're a hacker modder, you want to mess with something weird, or you're like a video game collector. You just find video game stuff so cool that you just want to have it. And again, I would go ahead and get one way cleaner than this. They're about $50 to $80 on eBay right now, depending on what you get. So go ahead and check those out. You can get, again, a bunch of different colors. This is better. Like, if you want a vertical one-piece Game Boy, get the color. It's going to be better than the Pocket. It's going to be better than the original Game Boy. In many different ways, you can play the same Tetris game on this as you do with the Game Boy Pocket, because this is backwards compatible with all the Game Boy games. So you can play Game Boy and Game Boy Color. But realistically, if you're going to, like, you want to play Game Boy games on a Game Boy, you don't want to go spend $40 on Temu and buy like an emulator, right? You better get the SP. The Game Boy Advance SP is the best one. It truly is. The only downside is it has a hinge. Like, that's the only downside, and I guess you have to charge it. You can't just pop in a new battery, right? But it has a better screen. It has more power, so you can play better games, right? You get to play the Game Boy Advance games. You get to play the Game Boy games and the Game Boy Color games. And it has a backlight. And again, I like the flip because it protects the screen, so you don't have like an indent like this one does. Now, that being said, I would just recommend you getting an emulator unless you're a video game collector. Like, there is nobody that should buy any old Game Boy at this point when you can emulate on your phone. You can do a bunch of things. Now, again, there is a little bit of like legal things with that, but you can go buy, again, an SP any day of the week. Get an SP. These other ones just aren't it, and you're like, but the nostalgia, I'll tell you, like, as one that loves my devices, it is awful. Especially without a backlight, it is so hard to see sometimes, these games. Just, plus, like, the actual games, most of them use little batteries, and once the battery dies, and it's been a long time, then your saves are dead with it, right? So you can't continue playing the game that you once did. And so you could get like an old school DS or DS Lite and be able to play Game Boy Advance games. They don't play Game Boy Colors and they don't play original Game Boys, but they play Game Boy Advance games and the DS games. If you really want to go there, like, buy a PSP for like $80 and then mod it, again, emulation's a thing and it's fabulous. But I do love the history of it. I do love that it's here. I do love that someone in 1996 bought this from the store brand new for like $70, $60. And they were so excited when they got home. They opened it up. They might not even went home. They might have just went into the car and split this open, started playing it. Started playing these real buttons almost 30 years ago. That's super exciting, super nerdy, super cool. But like, it can stay in the past. It's not relevant to today. The Switch we have is so cool. Like, it has a big screen, especially the OLED one. You can play with your friends. You can go ahead and put it on the screen. Like, you can't do anything like that for this. Like, technically, there's the Game Boy Super that if you have a Super Nintendo, you could put that cartridge in, and it just allows, it's basically an adapter that allows you to put your Game Boy games into a Super Nintendo so you can put it on the screen. Or you can get like a Nintendo 64 one, and I believe the GameCube came with a Game Boy adapter as well. So you can get one of those adapters for those systems to be able to put it on. But it's still not the same thing as a Switch. That it's one device. You can download your games. You can put a giant freaking micro SD card. Maybe I should do a video on the Switch. I don't know. I just love this device for how quirky it is, how cool it is. These buttons are super cool, right? They don't even imprint all the way. They like stop. Like if you go ahead and take this color and you push down the buttons, they go almost basically down to the actual front of the device. Point is, it's super cool, but it should stay in the past. Don't buy it. Love you guys. Peace out.